Well, hello everyone, and I hope this finds you all well in what are still challenging, definitely changing, but still uncertain times. And I suppose I just really wanted to check in, to say hello, and also just to share some of the things that I've been thinking about when we come to think about learning over the summer holidays, and what can I offer here at Star Pupil? What can I offer sort of as a general? Here are some ideas, here are some of my thoughts, but also some bespoke tuition that I can offer as well. I suppose the first thing to acknowledge really is that everybody is still at different stages, and that in some places school is still continuing. And I know in England, some schools have gone back. All the pupils have had a chance to go back for a period of time. Some have just had certain year groups back. Some have taken a blended approach, a phased approach. And the schools there will still continue to be open to students for another week or so. Whereas here in Northern Ireland, for example, term officially finished at the end of June. And I have to say, just to staff working in schools here, I thought some of the end of term montages that I've seen, and just the way that despite all the restrictions and despite not having had the students in schools for several months now, some of the way they were able to just celebrate the end of the school year, and particularly for the P7s. I saw lots of lovely footage of particularly the school that I worked in myself in Roundtower Integrated Primary School, the drive-by, and just the way that the school community was able to come together and to acknowledge the end of the school year. And I just thought that they were lovely, and say well done to all involved in those. Again, I know a lot of hard work goes into these things behind the scenes, but even more so when you've got added restrictions. So I'm thinking by now there's probably a little bit of what I'm going to call lockdown learning lethargy has set in, a bit of fatigue, and I certainly know sort of the online side of things, and I think we're all worried about becoming a bit of a nation of zombies. Certainly I've used sort of that on-screen communication more than I ever have done in my working life, certainly. And saying we're using it just in our working life, we're using it in our personal lives as well, and a blend. So I'm very conscious of that, and that perhaps for the next few weeks, certainly, people want a little break from the screen, and perhaps a different approach to learning as we sort of say come into technically the summer holidays. So we come to think about learning during the holiday time. And again, it's a bit of a Marmite situation. You know, some folks are all for sort of basically school continuing through the holidays with projects and homework and all of those things going on. And others feel it's time for a break, and it's time to just sort of take our foot off the gas a little bit. And we do have to acknowledge that the last few months have been very difficult and very different, certainly, for many. And whilst there's many things that in the fullness of time we might look back on and maybe see some positives, I think overall, as I've said many times, this isn't a situation any of us have chosen, and in an ideal world it would never have happened. And whilst we can take some positives, certainly there are things that we're all concerned and worried about as we look to the next few months. I'm sure many of you have heard that sort of phrase, the corona coaster, where we've had those good days and bad days. And I'm sure, I've not been in your homes, but I know that there will have been, even the most enthusiastic learner, the most motivated student, will have had days where they've just not wanted to do it, or not felt the purpose, or not felt the oomph and the desire to produce their best work, and that is totally understandable. And I know those things that would have happened around now, those transitions and all of those, meeting your new teacher and all of those things that are important to a lot of our young people haven't happened. And I guess what I would say there is they haven't happened for everybody, and that might be small consolation because, for your individual young person at home, they're the one you're concerned about. But in this case, it is a situation where everybody is in the same boat, and schools will be very conscious of that, and schools will be very aware that how the new term will start will be slightly different to how a new term would normally start. And there certainly will be time for that sort of transition and that reorientation that will need to take place. So in terms of keeping learning going over the holidays, what I would always say, even in normal times, that I think if you can keep it as discreet as you can, and by that I mean, the learning's happening without the young person actually realising that they're learning. One of the things that, of course, I will always advocate is reading, and if you can, fit that into the daily routine, even a couple of times a day, just a chapter or a picture book or a section of a non-fiction book. And, don't be precious about what they're reading. If they just want to read a comic or they just want to read a magazine, or they just want to read a sort of a book, maybe a book that's maybe they've read before even, all of those things are absolutely fine. It's just the actual reading and engaging with the text. And perhaps, if you're a reader yourself and you're reading your book and they're reading theirs, you can talk about it and chat about it. And I know books aren't cheap, and you've exhausted your home supply of books. So talk to friends, talk to relatives, maybe do some book swaps. The libraries are slowly opening, so that's always a possibility. So that's the first thing I would say about keeping learning going during the holidays. Try to read every day. And for the very younger pupils, just looking at signs, recognising their own name, just sort of basic, even just read to them so that they're engaging with the text during the day. In terms of mathematics, well, again, we just forget how much we use maths on a daily basis. All the time, we're using it if we're, setting the timer on the oven, if we're weighing out the ingredients for a cake, if we're measuring out an area of our garden, if we're, how many miles the journey is, how long it's going to take us to get there. So all those things, you can just keep that sort of mathematics in the real world going. But also just, long journeys or just out for a walk. You can practice number bunch, you can practice facts that they should know, make them into little competitions, make a rap, make a song, make a dance, just to get those facts embedded in. And of course, just general sort of like learning as we go around, just looking at things, appreciating the beauty of what's around us. Just a sort of stimulating an interest and an awareness of the world around us. Is all going to be to the good, none of those things are going to be detrimental. And in terms of what I can offer here at Star Pupil to support continued learning during the next few months, I'm going to put a couple of activities every week, and I'll try and link them together, and I will try and make them activities that they can be sort of adapted depending on the age and the stage of the student. So they can kind of do them and tackle them at their own level. And I'll try and link both activities so there's a sort of fluidity to them. And I suppose they'll be a little bit project-y, but my hope is that there'll be something, again, that there'll be an end product and something to share and something to talk about at the end of it. I'll also continue with my daily quotes because they help me as much as anything else, and I do enjoy researching those, and I hope they're inspirational. I'll be sharing Sunday sounds, so a piece of music on a Sunday, and it's something, again, I think probably has been very neglected during lockdown, is sort of our musical education. So any opportunities to just listen to and enjoy a piece of music and listen to lyrics and listen to the tune and tempo and all of those things, I think is invaluable, a really useful thing to be doing. In terms of more bespoke learning, as I say, I can offer one-to-one tuition, obviously not face-to-face at the moment, it would be via Zoom or Skype. And I can offer that across the primary ages and also some secondary school subjects as well. And particularly here in Northern Ireland, I can offer support for those who are thinking about doing the transfer test later on in the autumn. And my particular specialism is English. So that area of the transfer test in particular, I'm very happy to offer assistance with. I am on YouTube, and again, I suppose one of the things that I've done during lockdown, my lockdown learning, has been how to do these videos and upload them on YouTube. I never thought at the age of almost 50 I'd become a YouTuber, but there you go. You see, we're never too old to learn something or to try something, to step out of our comfort zone. So if you do want to have a look at my YouTube channel and you want to subscribe to it, that'll be fabulous. And what I've really appreciated over the last few months is all the positive comments that have come back from people who've followed me at Star Pupil. It's been really heartwarming, and again, I'm glad that I've been able to help in whatever little way I can. just to sort of, even people who've said to me who don't actually have young people at home, they've just enjoyed just looking at the quizzes or seeing the daily quotes or the pieces of music which I've been sharing. So thank you for that. Thank you for your support. It has been very much appreciated. And I guess just to say again, once more, well done to all of you. You know that I'm not a big fan of the phrase homeschooling, because I don't believe that's what you've been doing over the last few months. What you've been doing is you've been parenting in a pandemic, and what the young people have been doing is they've been learning during lockdown. As we've said, not circumstances that any of us would have chosen. And as I mentioned earlier, there may be times to come in the future where we'll look back and we'll be able to see the good that came out of it. Particularly, I suppose, for some of you, you have been able to spend precious time as a family, and that is very important. And I mean, my view of this these last few months is that as long as the people I care about and the people that matter to me are safe, I can kind of cope with everything else. And that's not to say that, I mentioned the Corona coaster earlier. We've had those ups and downs, we all have. And I think here in Northern Ireland, our weather is very symbolic, because we often have the four seasons in one day. And I think we probably have all gone through that in our minds, sort of the four seasons in one day. There's a phrase in literature called pathetic fallacy, where what's happening in the elements reflects what's going on in people's lives. And I think that's been very, very true for a lot of us lately, that we've had those days where, 1 minute we're riding high and everything's going along nicely, and then the next minute things are maybe just not feeling quite as good as we'd want them to. And again, those feelings that we've all been having have been totally understandable. And I guess the important thing is that we've all been there to support each other and to be understanding of each other during it. And I think particularly with our young people, they have come through it. And as we look towards the next term and we look towards the next academic year, we'll all be there to support them in whatever way we can, and we'll all be there to offer them advice and guide them, and to make sure that it's as seamless as it possibly can, given that, again, there are still uncertainties. And I suppose just to finish off, it's just to remind us all that, that phrase that we've all heard a lot, that, we're all in the same storm but in different boats. That's certainly been the case. And I think it's very worth reminding ourselves that we haven't actually reached the safety of the shore yet. So we just do have to continue to be careful. We do have to continue to follow the guidance. We have to continue to look out for each other, and to continue to try and all keep ourselves as safe as we possibly can, so that we can continue to move forward. So I say, look out for the things coming up in Star Pupil over the next couple of weeks. And if you want some bespoke tuition, some one-to-one tuition, or even small group tuition, those are things which I can offer over the summer. So take care, and again, as always, I will see you very soon. Okay, bye-bye.